over to you.
Hey guys, welcome to our lanyard for earbuds or AirPods, and I hope you will love it. Today I was thinking that I would focus on demoing how to do a really cool flowy ombre, and you can use really any colors. I am featuring size 6 and size 11 Czech seed beads in my design today. There is an entire beautiful wall in Michael's stores of all these colors. There's mixes, there's opaques and solids and transparents and color lines, and you can really make this your own. And there's also the possibility of turning any of these wonderful like concepts into little friendship bracelets or necklaces. We were talking before class about how we'd love to just put this on as a necklace, and it would be really fun and beautiful. So I'm hoping today that I just inspire you to get all your colors out on the mat and just have a really fun time creating something beautiful that can become either, an AirPod or, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm losing mine all the time. I have to search the house for them and do the thing where I make my phone ping them to find them. So this will help me not lose them. And also it could be used for your sunglasses or your eyeglasses. So yeah, let's dive in and I'll show you everything that I've got going. Thanks, Felicia. So here on the mat is the original concept, which is a little ombre that has a flow. And I started with the Flamingo mix. And guys, I used up all my Flamingo mix, not on this design, but just in general, because I love that one. It's so pretty. And then I kind of worked in different, so the Flamingo mix has some AB finish orange 6-0 in it. And then I pulled out also the regular orange from the wall and just kind of used that to move into lemon yellow. Then I moved into this beautiful teal color with, I just love this combo. Let me show you guys. I think this is one of my favorite combinations in the design. So I did that here. And then I just kept going. And then I went back to the original colorway. And so I'm going to show you how I did this. And one of the ideas I had was, I think it's harder to spot what I did with the mixes going. So I did a version in just solids. So you can really see the counts and it's like super sharp, but it's the same way, made the same exact concept. I just got creative with the mixing. So that makes it kind of makes the ombre less pronounced, but you definitely still see it as you're going along in the chain. So here's how to do it. The other things that I'm using a 0.018, which is the equivalent of like a fine beading wire. And I think you could either use 0.018 or even like 0.015. The only real limitation you have is you have to be able to get through an 11 seed bead somewhat easily. I had no issues using 0.018. So the smaller sizes will work even better, but a good happy medium, I feel like, because you're using 6-0 seed beads as well. Let me show you those. Is to use, the biggest beading, as Meredith says, the biggest beading wire you can for the bead that you're using that still fits your smallest bead. So that seemed to be the magical number, but again, it's flexible, so you can try that. You'll need some 2x2 crimps, and then you'll need a finding. This is called an eyeglass holder finding, and it is very, very versatile. So not only can it be for your eyeglasses, but also for the AirPods. And the way it works is whatever you're putting it on, you can adjust the height of this little loop with this. So if it's something with a little smaller connection, or a larger connection, you can just adjust it and you can tighten it after it's on. So like you put your device on there and then just push the little coil up and it does stay. It stays in position really nicely. So they don't fall out. And I tried swinging them and everything, and they do a really good job. And so these are everything I'm using is in the PDF handout. And I put the Michael's SKU numbers, the SKU numbers for their application where you can go to the app and just order online. But you can also order online for picking up in store. So that's something I do a lot. And you can also just go to the store and browse that way too. But this one is a buy online. So you want to do this one online. Okay, let's dive in. So I'm going to show you, this is a finished one ready to go. So I'm just going to set it aside for now. And I'm going to show you how to start. So the beading wire, you just want to work from your spool. That's often what I do, is I'll just take my spool and work from that. And then once I've got the length that I like, I'll trim it and I will put on my findings. I'll usually finish one side first and then cut it free from the spool. But there's an alternative. You can also find some of these little bead stoppers. They're very handy for protecting the ends. If stuff that you have pre-strung that you're still kind of thinking about, you can always do that too if you've already pre-cut your design. My length, my finished length on my lanyard is 26 inches. But I think you could also do, you know, you could also do kind of like a, longer or shorter version, just depending on what your preference is for that length. So that's why working from the spool is really cool, because you can play with that measurement before you've committed to crimping it. Which brings me to the next thing you'll need, which is some tools. You will need some crimping pliers. You're also going to need some flush cutters to cut the beading wire, side cutters or flush cutters. And then you're going to need some 2x2 crimp tubes. And so a crimp tube is just like a little metal tube bead, and they look like that. And you put the beading wire through it, make a loop and come back through. We'll do this together on a couple times on the lanyards, and then you use this tool to finish it. It's a really nice, secure way to finish your lanyard, and a lot of other jewelry too. So right now on the mat, what I have is I've got some size 11 seed beads. You can use any color you want. Like gold would look cool too. They have a silver lined gold on the wall, but I'm using crystal silver lined. And I'm also using a bunch of size 6 seed beads. So the original design, every bead that I used in this one is in the handout. And then for today, I was thinking I would demo in just a little half of a rainbow. I picked out the warms. So going through these colors, and then I'll make my turn with these colors and come back through these colors. So that's the design that I have going for today. And just here on the mat, it's a little hard to see, but I'll bring it down. All my colors are just laid out in the order that I would like to ombre them. Oh, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, I find that I like to just enjoy the classes without worrying about taking notes, so that's why I'll always do your notes for you. No worries there. And so the cool thing about this design is that you do not have to use the same colors, and you can make multiple versions, but the same method, the same recipe. You could even call it an algorithm if you want, because that's kind of what we're doing. We're just following a little algorithmic process to create a consistent looking ombre. And so this is something I love doing, and I do it a lot with a lot of designs. So I recycle this idea quite a few times. I would suggest starting with a size 6 seed bead first. And this is because we're going to bring our crimping wire, our beading wire, after we've put the crimp back through one bead, just to kind of help us keep the loop nice and not crossed wires, and it's easier to trim it after a bead. That's just my preference. That's how I'm going to demo it. So I didn't start with an 11-0 for that reason, because it can be a little tricky to get 2 passes through an 11-0 with the 0.018 beading wire. And but if you wanted to start with an 11-0, maybe just go down to 0.015, and I bet that would work. All right, and so I'm going to start with 6-0 for me here. And then for every bead, I'm going to put an 11-0 in between. And you can use your beading wire like a needle. If you just hold it in your hand like this, you can usually get it to pick up at least 3, maybe even 4 beads before you have to slide them down. It saves you a lot of time if you're doing a lot of stringing like me. So I've got 4 6-0 seed beads in my first color, and I spaced them each with my 11-0. And now I'm going to start introducing the second color. So we'll start with my spacer, and we'll do one of the new color. And then introduce 3 more of the former color. And again, you just want to make sure you're spacing each one, just because it looks really cool, and it makes the finished beading very flowy. if you use these little spacers. It's really like the secret to stringing something really, really nice is putting a little spacer in it. So there's 3. And now I'm going to bring in 2 of the new color. So we'll go 2. So we got that. And so now I'm going to reduce my original color down to 2. And so we got that. And now we're going to bring in 3 of the new color. So what we're doing is we're dropping down the counts of the original color and upping the count of the new color. So we went from 4, 3, 2, and now we're going to do 1. And in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to do 4. Remembering my spacer there. And there's those. And so if you were doing this with a mix, this is one full flow. I would call it a flow, I guess would be a great way to describe it. So we started with our original count, 4 of the original color, and then we slowly introduced the new color, and now we're at 4 of the new color. So now it's time to introduce the 3rd color. So in this case, I'm just doing a 4, 3, 2, 1 flow. The cool thing about this type of beading is you can up these counts or lower these counts to make your flows wider or narrower. So if you wanted, you could start with, let's just use this example, 7 of your original colors. And then you would have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That would make your transition from one color to the next a much longer transition. Or you could shorten it. You could do 3, 2, 1, and then that flow would happen faster. So you're, I guess you're increasing the frequency there. Kind of a way to describe it. A really cool way to do that. So this like process works for anything you want to do. And it helps you keep track of it. It even helps you like predict your bead counts. If you're like me and you're down to the bottoms of some of your tubes, like I obviously really love this color. So I'm gonna need to go get more, but I use that one the most in like a lot of my designs. And so I want to make sure, hey, do I have enough? If I make this 26 inches, and this gives me a way to predict that like mathematically. So that's another really cool bonus. If you're a seller who's going to make 20 of them, you might want to know how many tubes do I need? This gives you the maths for it. So yeah, let's do one more color. Let's transition that. And then any questions, please feel free to pop them up because this is a nice, easygoing class. And I have lots of capacity for questions. So here's our first lemon, my favorite right there. And so we'll use 3 now of the other color we're leaving. And the hardest part for me is remembering to put my spacer. I've had to pull beading back because I realized that, oh no, I put 2. I either skip it or put 2. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to show a little trick really quick. Opportunity. Okay, so I'm going to pull all these beads off together and just pinch them in my fingers. And then I'm going to try to lose this bead and be able to just go back through them all at once. It doesn't always work, but we're just going to see if we're lucky today. If it works, I'm going to cheer. Woohoo! Look at that. Does not always happen, but there we go. Okay, so now we want 2. And so now we need 2 more of these. And I always get that song from the 80s stuck in my head that has the counts. The that 4, 3, 2, 1. If you know, you know. And I probably just got a song stuck in your head. Apologies. And let's see, 3 of the next ones. There we go.
Hi Danielle, Millie here.
Hey,
So
Millie.
we did have a question about if there's a way to do this using Ceylon, Athlon, or micro macrame thread.
Yeah. You probably want to use one of those collapsible eye needles because stringing with those, especially well, a couple thoughts that I have, depending on the diameter you're thinking, because those come in multiple texts and diameters, you may have trouble with the 11-0. So I would say try it, and you can always make this an 8-0. You'd get a different look, but it would still work. And it'll definitely work with the 6-0 beads, no problem for most of them. Even the one like text 210, I think will still work. Yeah, and so I've got 3 here. So now I'm down to 1 of my oranges. It's also really cool because it's easy to figure out where you are. So it's a nice project for traveling. And you can also, maybe watch a show while you're doing it. And I do think with these colors especially, but just really with any colors, how eye-catching it is really going to be quite a draw if you're a seller at like a fair or one of the shows. It's gonna be like so pop. It's gonna look very eye-catching for people walking by your booth and stuff. And I'm actually I'm wearing a bracelet right now that was made a while ago for another class we did, and I put a little charm on it, on these little crystal charms. These folks really love these. And your question about the other type of stringing material gave me an idea to show you this because these little callets here that sometimes you'll hear them called clamshells, that would be a way to do your knots because you don't want to crimp the way we're going to finish this beading wire. You don't want to do that on the fibers. So maybe grab some of these. I know they have these on the wall in Michael's. They have them in stainless, 18 karat. I believe they're even there in sterling silver. So you can get these and just tie a really good knot, bring it through. And then when you get to the other side, you bring the thread through and knot it. So you can do the same thing with that. All right, and so here we are. We're at 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. And so now we're ready for the next color. So just like that, I'll keep going and keep the questions coming. And then when we get, I'll do another 5 minutes and let's do some finishing. So I can make sure you can see that a bunch of times. Crimping is one of those things where like, in theory, it's like the easiest thing. It sounds so easy but so much can go wrong. I'm actually kind of afraid of crimping. I'm not going to lie. It's because crimping is forever and you literally do kind of have to restring it if the crimp doesn't work out. So that's the only thing about crimping. But that said, it's really strong. And once you got it, you got it. So I'm at 1 here. So let's do 3 of these. And there's 3. Oh, and I meant to share the measurements. Let me make sure and tell you what each flow measures in total. And that helps going back to what I mentioned earlier about figuring out how many beads you need. It gives you a way to go from inches to bead count. So there's your 2. And so now I just need 2 of these. And now I just need 3 of my new color. And now just 1. And then 4 of the new color. Sometimes when I teach ombres like this, I'll teach it with the beads laid out. Like you can lay out the 1, 2, 3, and 4 to help you keep track. But in this case, it's just so easy to see. I didn't feel like we really needed that. But in things like peyote, it can really help because it's hard to tell the rows apart. But in this case, I feel like this is just so easy to do just by looking at it. So let's do some measuring just really quick. One of these flows from 4 to 4 gives you about it's a hair under 3.5. So counting the 11.0 seed bead, you're looking at just it's almost 3.5. It's like one tick away from being that. So if that helps you plan your design, and then you know that you're going to need 10 of each color for every, so in total 20 beads for just a little under 3.5. So it really stretches your beads. And I was counting the 6 O's, the 11 O's, you want to count those in addition to that. All right, so how's everyone feeling about ombre? Should I show, I can move over to my other sample that's almost done and finish it up and explain a little bit about what I did. Because I think showing the stringing, I think everyone's probably got that now, and I'm still on my spool here. So I can just keep going from there. I'm going to set that one over here. And I'm going to put one of my little stoppers on it. So that's ready for me to finish later. And on this one, this beautiful one, it's almost complete, but it's got a few things left. I started the same way with these same counts. And I just kept going and kept going. When I got to the blue, that's where I made my turn. And I want to show you guys the turn counts really quick. And what I mean by turn is I was out of colors that I had intended to include in my flow, because my last color was this one. So what happened is I did the usual intro 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when I got to 4, I just said, hey, this color, that's now my 4 main color. And I just started reintroducing this one in the same exact way, heading back out. So you can see now it's at 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you just carry on and carry on like that as you go on. So it makes the center section, or in this case, this is the section that will be behind our neck when we're wearing the lanyard. It makes it a little bit longer. It'll be the focus of your design because it'll have the most space. And it's also a really nice way to check your counts going out, because now you can see how it just really lines up everything. So, I mean, this is a beautiful way to design jewelry just in general, because it gives you a beautiful center point for a pendant. You can pop a charm on there and it'll fit right in between those 2 beads. And then the bead counts can just keep coming up and coming up and going out. And so you've got, in this case, in this design, the focus that we're really going to see is those nice cool counts that will be behind the neck. And then the warm brights will be down here by the AirPod. And so that was just my design choice, but you can absolutely reverse that or do anything. So mine's nearly done. And I'm just matching these here at the ends. And I'm just gonna take the slack out of those and show you where I'm at. So I've got one, I stopped just shy of 1 count. And I decided I wanted it to match. So from where I am here, I'm right there, I think. No, there I am, I think. Yeah, so like right about there. So I could have, I could end it right here with the pink. But if you wanted to add length to it, you can just keep going. And so what I've done here, I stopped here on purpose because I wanted to show you the thought process for measuring it before finishing it. And I may or may not just take this section off or finish another section, because I'm gonna just decide by what length I want. So let's look at it and measure out. It's going to be a little hard to do on camera completely, but what I'm doing here is I'm just going to measure the whole thing. And I've got, at the moment, this one's longer than I'd intended. It's already at 28 inches. So I'm going to pull off the extras that I'd put on there. And I'm just going to end, I'm going to end with this as a segment here. So I'm just going to pull those off. And that's just one one full repeat there of one of the flows. And I think that's going to work out really nicely. So there's my finished lanyard without the crimps yet. And it's all ready to go. So if everyone's good with this whole part of the design process, I'm going to switch to putting on the little findings. But just give me a shout, because we still have a really, really, really long like part of class left, so we could even start a second one if you wanted to. So, but let's do this, and then we'll just switch back if you want. So let's see. I'm gonna just slide this down just a little bit because it's free flowing on my beading wire, and I want to preserve a little bit of my extra length over here. I've got a lot of extra length, and I can use that for something else. So I'm going to just start with this end. In the handout, one of the things I made sure to mention, because it's kind of important, is to make sure you have, I always say like 4 inches. You could probably get away with 3, but 4 inches of beading wire left after your last bead, just to give you some maneuverability. I'm even overshooting that right now, but I have a lot of extra, so I'm just going with it. But it's kind of, this maneuvering part is easier with a little extra length. You don't want to get down and have like 1 inch left and be trying to feed your beading wire like back through. It can make this part of the job harder. So give yourself a little extra, 4 inches on each end, and you've got it. And if you're working on the spool, it makes it really easy to slide it and cut it so that you've got that, right? And so I'm going to need a couple of things. I'm going to need the crimps, which I just slid 1 crimp bead onto my beading wire. I'm going to need one of these findings. Let's get those. I'm going to preserve my packaging a little bit. There we go. So one of these. And then just go ahead and bring your beading wire through it. And then go ahead and go back through your crimp. And what I like to do is go back through one of the seed beads also. And then leave yourself a loop here. That's about 4 or 5 millimeters or so. So you have lots of free motion, especially important with clasps. You want to give the clasps enough air that they can move around and swing. It makes it easier to put things on. And there's a question about wire guardians. Yeah, you could, but this design, you know, it's just one of those more like free spirit designs. So I didn't really go through all the bells and whistles of a wire guardian. Plus, I've always felt that beading wire is just so strong on its own. I'm more likely to use a wire guardian with my thread designs. But that's just me. Lots of folks would finish this with a wire guardian, so that's totally great. But yeah, I'm just kind of just doing the simplest way for today. And so there's my loop. I'm trying to keep that at about 4 inches. And another thing you want to do is make sure your wire isn't crossed inside the crimp. And the bead helps me with that because I can hold it like this outside the bead. And I know that inside the crimp, one is on this side and one's on that side, each of the traveling wires through it. And then I bravely crimp at this point. So if you're new to crimping pliers, they have 2 sections. They have a section at the back that looks like a little rainbow or a U shape. That's step 1. And you compress the crimp so that it folds into a U shape. The tool is made for folding that U shape closed. And don't worry, we'll have lots of time to demo this. So I like to place the crimp into the open bottom part. So I'll position mine in this direction and I'll look for the little U and just settle it right in there. Making sure that my wires are staying, you know, not like, you don't want to have them be like that. You want them to be flat in there. And then when you compress it, it's going to bring them into this little U shape. It's easier to see on this side. I'll slide this down. So just like that. And that's what you're going for. And then we're just going to fold it closed by placing it in the front part of the plier. And in the front part of the plier, you want to make sure that it's side by side so that it's going to close just like that. And you can be real gentle about it. This doesn't have to be, you don't have to really grip it because it's gonna, the more pressure, I think the more chance you could damage your beading wire. So a little gentle crimp is just fine. And then I like to just take this extra and trim it. And then slide everything down. So that side is all set. The first side is always a little easier. The second side I struggle with more. It's because of a couple of things. I'm going to share a few tricks now. The first thing you want to do is hold up your design and let gravity move all the beads down so that this part is tight. And I literally like hold it in there and just let the beads come down. And then I'll bring the beads down back to the mat, but I'll do it in a spin. And this is just my way of doing it. There's lots of ways, but this is how I make sure that it doesn't crimp it so tight that you get, I don't know if you've ever seen designs where they can't bend. The spacer beads help with that already, but even just doing this makes sure, and it also helps me with another thing. As I'm doing these maneuvers over here with the extra beading wire, it's also going to protect me from any kind of gaps forming new as I'm doing my crimping, because that happens sometimes too. So this is just a couple of ways that I kind of prevent that from occurring. So here's that other crimp bead, just slide that on. Here's our other finding. Slide that on. And I'm going to make sure I didn't create a gap here. Still going to try to preserve the idea of about a 4-inch loop right here. And I'm going to go back through the crimp and one bead. And so right about there, I think is good. And then we just bravely crimp the back first and then the front. And you get the little U shape. And you can trim them. And there you go. I have some tricks and suggestions for if for some reason, and this used to happen to me a lot when I was new, if you've got major gaps, like where it's more than the size of a bead, there are these really cool findings on the findings wall that are called crimp covers. And they look like a little ball or like a little Pac-Man kind of. They're just like a little opened bowl. I should have brought one with me, but I only just thought of it. This is an old trick I used to use back when I was new and I used to have spacing issues. You can take crimp covers and just pop them into that gap and close them gently and they become a bead. So it looks like you just have a metal bead on the end. And you can like, for example, if you had a really big gap between your crimp and your next bead, you could put it there and that would save you. So little tricks. Oh, and Susie says no tug test. Yeah, well, I do that for bracelets usually, but because this was a necklace and it was nice and long, the coiling action really kept everything nice for me. So I'm really happy with how this one looks. Now I have 2 AirPod lanyards going here. And I'm open for demoing again because we've got a lot of extra time. So if there was anything that was just a little unclear or you missed it or you just want to see it again or you have ideas, we can explore ideas too. I can also just do some extra crimping and show you some crimps. So I know crimping's it's not hard, but it's also, I wouldn't call it easy either. And it seems like it should be, but it's you know, it's confidence building, I'll put it that way. Yeah, and so I'm catching up with the chat. 1 second, really quick. I'm just going to take a quick look and see. Crimping. Okay, so I got to vote for crimping. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and bring over my other one because I can do that end that I started on. So let's go ahead and now I'm on my spool for this side. So what I'm going to do so I can cut it free and I want to crimp the end I started. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start the measurement. I'm going to go for 26 plus 8. So just really quick measuring that. So I'm at 31 already. I think that's good. I'm just going to give it a little more and that will be perfect. Okay. So trimming it on this side. And I've got my handy dandy bead stopper on this side so I won't lose any of my work. And let's bring that down. So leaving myself about 4 inches from my last bead. And I'm going to need one more finding. And then slide that one, sorry, put the crimp on. I'm going to string on my crimp and then string on my finding. And I'll bring it back through the crimp bead and then through my first bead. And so you see how when it's coming through the bead here, you have an opportunity to pinch that position with your fingers. And that means they're not crossed in your crimp. That's kind of my trick for avoiding it being crossed. And then I'll just hold my fingers like that. It's harder to do on the finishing end, obviously, but I still kind of use the same method. And that way, as you can see, it's got a pretty good chance of not crossing, because when the beading wire crosses itself in the crimp, it's harder to get your U shape to form. And it often the crimp doesn't work in that case. It often will fail. So I've got this ready. I'm going to briefly crimp it. The back part of the tools, the part we use first, and I'll just settle the crimp inside of that little indent. So this one at the back. And then just gently compress it. So it makes that really cool looking U. And then I'll face it kind of out this way from the tool. And let's see, I'm going to make it so you guys can see. There we go. So the U shape's this way. So the rainbow's going in this way. And I'll just bring the tool on. And using the front part of the tool, I'm just going to close the book. So it gets just like that. And I did lose my bead. I'm going to trim it right after the bead. And then slide the rest of my beads down. And then you got it. And feel free to experiment with that earlier idea about the wire guardian. That's something you can do. It's really cool. You know what I could show, since we have the time? I wonder if I can show you guys maybe I'll make this my last color, and I will show what I was talking about with how to go from one color and then traveling back up. Let's see, I'm getting one more question about the crimper. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to take a look at that. Seems you're using. Yeah, so on the crimping tool, there's a front and a back part of the tool. And you know what? Why don't I do a crimp without anything in it? That will be easier. And that way you can really see what's happening. So let me just grab a few of these little crimps. Okay, so I've got one more there. Okay, so just without beading wire in it. Now this isn't gonna, it does need the beading wire in it to work, but you can at least get the visual here. So there's 2 things. There's the back part of the tool, and then there's the front part of the tool. The back part of the tool is the one you use first, and that creates that U shape. So when you put your crimp in there, it's actually going to be harder to do without the beading wire. You can do it though. Essentially what's happening at step 1 is you're getting it to sit in that little back part. And I always kind of face my tool so that the part that doesn't have the tooth. So let me close it really quick so you can really see what I'm doing without compressing it. Oh, here we go. That's going to work. Okay. So just that. And you see how it has one side has a tooth on it, and the other side is like an open U shape. So imagine that we've got both of those beading wires passing through it. And our goal is to have the beading wire laying parallel flat in that direction. Imagine that each of my fingers is one of the beading wires, so that when we do this next step, it crimps and it puts each of those wires on each side. Right? And then when you do the next step, the goal is to, let's see if I can get it in there. I'm going to need to turn it 1 second. A little tricky. Well, it's not exactly where it needs to be. It's kind of off center, but you can kind of see if I could just get it to turn just a little. There we go. It's much easier to do this with the beading wire because you can use the beading wire to position it. But you see how it's kind of like, we're going to just close the book like that? That's what happens. And mine didn't work out great because it doesn't have the wire in it. But in general, that's what you're doing. And so each of your beading wires is flowing through one side, but not compressing it so tightly that it cuts the coating. Because the coating is the real ticket with beading wire in general. I think it's what makes it strong and what makes it last a long time. It's also what makes it waterproof. And so you want to just protect that. But so from here, what I was thinking it might be fun to do is let's travel back up to yellow from here. So I can show you that. That way, if you're working on it later, you can refer back to this video if you get to this spot and it's like, hang on. So from here to travel back to yellow, we're just doing the same thing. You can even pretend these aren't here and just say these are your first 4 beads. And we want to just introduce yellow. So we just bring yellow as 1. And we'll put on our spacer. And then let's go 3 of the green. And a spacer in between each one. So those are all set there. And now we need 2 of those. And then we'll just need 2 green. Oops, let me grab another one. That one didn't want to go on. And see this beading wire, it's so cool. It acts like a little needle. So it's very handy. And now we'll need 3 of the yellow. I'll sort of think about it for a minute. And so there's the 3 yellows. And then you just need 1 more of the green. And from there, we've done almost a full one. We need to put 4 of our yellows on. So I got 2 there. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm in the habit of putting that spacer on after every bead, so I know it's there. Okay. And so now we've gone from yellow to green and back to yellow. And that's the ticket for doing one of the switchbacks. And just try to get it to line up a little bit so you can see what we did. And that makes a beautiful bracelet design. I mean, that right there, 2 colors and you got it. And so other ways you can play with length, since we've got a few minutes actually, and I kind of want to see it myself. I'm going to start a new, actually, I have this other strand of beading wire here, my little leftovers from the last one. I want to try one of different counts. I mentioned it, but it might not have totally made sense because I was just kind of talking through it, but you're not stuck with 4, right? Let's do 7. We've got time. Let's do 7. So I'm going to start with 7 beads. So here's 1. And I think we can at least string a flow and you can see what it looks like. It looks really cool. And it's a wider flow. It takes longer, more gradual. Okay, so, and for all you guys out there that are like math brains, this is going to light you up. You're going to love this because it's just so fun. Same process, but we're just going to make it look almost totally different. 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 7. There's 7. Okay, so starting with our orange color now, with just 1. And now we'll do 6 of the main. So super intuitive, really, really easy. and easy to repeat. Let's see here. Okay, so just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just have to be more mindful of my counts. So here's 2. And this is a way to work with less colors. So for example, if you're like, you know what, I just want to work with 3 tubes. This will give you the ability to stretch 3 tubes to 26 inches. And I just did that in my head, so I could be off by an inch or two, but I do think that would math out. Okay, let's see. So I'm at 5. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so there we go, that. I need to do my spacer. And there's 1, 2. Yeah, you'd have to repeat it 4 times, but I think it would work. I'll try it and I'll tell you guys. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We got to go all the way to 7 with our orange before it's complete. So you see how it's really going to make it long. It's going to be a pretty cool one. There's 3. So now I want 4 of these. Okay, so there's those 4. And so 4 of those. And I'm going to pull this down so you can see where I'm picking up from here. I'm using the one that I took off of the last lanyard when I decided to make it shorter. So all my beads are ready for me. There we go. And so now I'm down to 3. I'm going to finish this and get you the measure so you can have a measurement for a 7 flow. So I've got 2 and 2. I need to do 5, 1, 2, 3. And I'm out of orange. There's 4. And 5. So now I'm down to 2 here. And 6 on this one. Oh, I might run out of beading wire. Oh no, this is longer than I expected. I did not guesstimate this correctly. All right. But it'll still give you the idea though. But I'm breaking my rule about leaving enough for the crimp. So here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and now it's down to 1 of those. Okay. We're going to be able to see it, but I won't be able to crimp the end. There's 3. Four. There's 5 and 6. And here we go. 7. Okay. So here's what it looks like if you did a 7 flow. And that's just going from one color to another color. How cool is that? That's really neat. So that gives you a lot of length. It's it measures a full, yeah. So I think this is going to be a little bit longer, but I bet you if I'd have done 6 beads, it'd have been perfect. Let's look. And hopefully this is all fitting in the window there. I'm gonna put this here. Yeah, so this is giving me close to 9 inches. So that's a little longer than I was going for, but if I had done a 5 or a 6 count, I'd be down here, I think. I think that would work. So it is definitely worth playing with that and seeing, but if you were doing this for the lanyard and you only had like 3 colors, for example, so from here we'd go into yellow, and then from yellow back up into orange, back up into pink, you could probably repeat that flow 3 or 4 times and get between 26 and 28 inches, I think. Just guessing based on what that measured out to, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely doable to make it with different counts and just see what happens. Also super fun, and it just looks beautiful. And then there's always, never to discount just doing a solid color if you have one you love and you just want to do a solid color. Exactly the same thing here. Yeah, and so let me just take one quick look at the chat, make sure I didn't miss any questions, and if not, I will share. Oh yeah, and it already thank you, Susie, for answering that one for me. So yeah, I use with the crimp, I don't usually use a glue. However, I did use glue in here when I finished this one, because this was I believe I made this with Beelon. And so there's Beelon knotted in there. Looks like I have a new message. Oh yeah, let me show you the earbuds really quick. I'm gonna bring those back. And oh, let's pop it on the new one. Let's see what the new one looks like. So take those off. And here's I'm just gonna lay that out so you can see the whole thing. And let's pop the earbuds on this one. There we go, nice and tight so I will not lose them. There we go. This one is cute. I like this one. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this came out. So it goes just into the cool colors just for a second and then comes back up to the warm colors. So in the front of your ears, you'll have warm colors hanging. So you can design to have, colors that you like next to your skin, and then the brighter colors can be at the back of the neck. And that's kind of how I was doing with these, because I do like the warmer tones next to my ears. So yeah, that's what I was playing with there. And hopefully that is visual. Let me slide this up just a little bit. You know what? I'm not sure, but I don't think so, because this is not metal here. It looks like metal, but it's covered in a nylon coating. And so the nylon coating, and sorry guys, the question that came up was, could the wire cut the rubber of the finding? I would be really surprised if that happened. You're just looking at a little nylon coating on a little rubber. I feel like you're going to get a lifetime out of this. It's not going to break on you. That said, the question earlier we had about the wire guardian, maybe that's a good reason not to use the wire guardian, because then it isn't metal on rubber. Then of course that's metal. So I take back everything I said. Honestly, I think it would all work and be okay. Super cute. Yeah, I loved making this. And so we have a special class tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a jean jacket. And so the jean jacket it's actually here. And I'm not going to be able to show the entire setup of the sewing machine and how I did all of the stitching onto the jacket, but I can answer questions about it. So I'm going to come prepared to answer any questions you might have about the process I went to attach the jacket. But what I was going to focus on in class, and I'm just going to bring it over to the mat really quick. And I was going to focus on showing you guys how I did the bead weaving, the stitching, because this was really easy and it looked really cool when it was done. And I noticed that in the fabric section at Michael's, they've got a bunch of new fabrics. And so I was going to share some tips and tricks for how I was kind of proud of how this doesn't have any puckering, it's just really flat and matte. I was going to share all the tips and tricks for how I did that too. And there's really only one tip, that is use fusible interfacing. If you use the fusible, it will prevent any kind of puckering. And I'm going to be using a hoop, and all of that's in the handout you can download right now at michaels.com/classes. And it's really cool, a little anchor hoop. We put those in there, and then we're going to be using some seed beads with embroidery floss. New for me kind of idea, but it worked out really, really, really nice. And I see one question I can answer real quick. Care instructions, since it's beaded. You know what? It really depends on the finish of the beads. Maybe avoiding things like chemicals, like cleaning chemicals. doing the dishes and things like that. Now it's up around the neck, so maybe that's not an issue, but like with bracelets, for example, I take off my bracelets when I do dishes. And I don't usually wear a lot of like perfumes or like what's it called, scented lotions, but sometimes with seed beads on a bracelet, but honestly, I don't know if like on a lanyard that would be an issue at all. So maybe just not, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not waterproof because truth be told, I do wear my bracelets out in the rain and they're fine. So I feel like as a lanyard, it's going to see a lot less, you know, things that there's less that can happen to it that will damage your seed beads. So that's my thought on it, but yeah. Oh, you're talking about care for the jacket. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. I would dry clean this. I would take it to a dry cleaner. It's just like any other kind of like tambour beaded dress that you might have for prom or something. I would take something like this to a dry cleaner and have them take care of it for you. They have methods and processes for special garments like this. That said, I did pre-wash all these fabrics before I stitched with them. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, same time. I'll be here at what is for me 11 a.m. Pacific for Central Time, and 11, I believe it's 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you then. And in the meantime, happy beading.